Hi, this is a video that's going to go over section 8.6, Geometry, week 18. First, review. We know that area is the number of squares that's needed to cover a region, and the surface area is the number of squares needed to cover the outer shell of a solid in space. This should say solid. There should be an I there. Okay, and then the surface is the boundary of the three-dimensional figure. So I've got here a picture of a prism. We have two bases. Here's one base, and the other one is on the bottom. I can't see it. The lateral faces would be these bases here, and then the other side and the other back. It's got a height, which would be how high it sits off the table. And this particular one is a right prism because it makes right angles with the base. And we are going to be interested in finding the surface area of the lateral surfaces, and we're going to be interested in finding the surface area of the two bases. So here's an example of a rectangular prism. Notice that I've taken it apart so that you can see the two bases and the lateral surface area if it's been folded out. So these numbers here, this 5, comes from this 5, and then there's a 2, that's this value, and then the back would be another 5, and the other side would be 2. So this length right here, if I add these two numbers up, 5 plus 2 plus 5 plus 2, that equals 14. And that 14 is an important number because it is the perimeter of the base. So I'm going to, for the lateral surface area, take 14 times 7 because this length, as we said, is 14. The height is 7. So the area here is going to be base times height, so it's going to be 14 times 7. Now, again, what's important here is this lateral surface area is 14 times 7, but this 14, that's the perimeter. So the lateral surface area is actually the perimeter of the base times whatever the height is. In this case, it's 7. The area of the base is pretty straightforward. This area right here is a rectangle. So it's 5 times 2, base times height, which gives me 10. And I've got 2 of them, so I'm going to need to remember that. I've got 2 bases. So the total surface area is this lateral surface area plus 2 of the bases. And that's where we get our formula for lateral surface area and for total surface area. The surface area of a prism is the sum of the lateral surface area and the area of the bases. So again, remember that this capital B does not stand for a length, it stands for an area, and in this case it's the area of the base. This L is the lateral surface area, and if it's a right prism, then it's the product of the perimeter of the base and the height. Now we do have a special case if we have a cube, because all of the faces are the same and there are 6 of them. Each of the squares is s squared, and if there are 6 of them, then we just take 6 times s squared. So let's take a look at some examples using our new formulas. Here we have a cube, and we're supposed to find the lateral and total surface area. Well, the lateral surface area is going to be the perimeter of the base times the height. So the perimeter of the base is 2 lengths plus 2 widths. Or you could just add up 5 plus 3 plus 5 plus 3. So in this case, I've got 2 5s plus 2 3s, which is 10 plus 6. So the perimeter is 16. So in order to continue with my problem, I've got the perimeter, which is 16, times the height, which is 4. And so altogether, I have got 64 for the lateral surface area. Now, for the area of the bases, the area of the base is going to be 5 times 3, which is 15. So altogether here, the total surface area is the lateral surface area plus 2 times the area of the base. So I'm going to have 64 plus 2 times the area of the base, which is 15. So I get 64 plus 30, which is 94 square units. This next prism is a triangular prism, and you know that because it has 2 triangles for the bases. Even though it's sitting on its rectangle, which makes it kind of look like a tent, the bottom of the prism is considered the equilateral triangle. So you kind of have to imagine having it sitting straight up on its triangles and instead of on the rectangular side. Okay, so for our lateral surface area, we're going to need to calculate the perimeter of the base times the height. Okay, so now in this case, the perimeter is going to be the distance around this triangle. So in this case, the perimeter, 3 plus 3 plus 3 is 9. And if you imagine it sitting straight up and down, this 6 is considered the height. So when I multiply those together, I get 54. Okay, so now I need to take a look at the area of the base. Well, that is an equilateral triangle, so remember that the area of the base, or excuse me, the area of an equilateral triangle is radical 3 over 4 times s squared. So for our triangle, that's going to be radical 3 over 4 times 3 squared, which is 9. So I get 9 radical 3 over 4. So let's calculate our total surface area. I need the lateral surface area plus 2 times the area of the base. So I have 54 plus 2 times 9 radical 3 over 4. So let's do just a little bit of simple canceling. 2 goes in here once, 2 goes in here twice. So my total surface area is going to be 54 plus 9 radical 3 over 2. And you're going to leave that answer just like that. You cannot combine those terms. You would need a calculator to get those down to a single number. Now let's look at a cylinder that has circles for its bases. So if I undo this and unwrap the lateral surface area, I want you to notice that the length of the circumference of the base here, when it's unwrapped, it becomes the length of this side of my rectangle. So the circumference, we know, that is 2 pi r. So we're going to need to use 2 pi r times our height in order to get the area of the rectangle here. So for my formula, instead of taking the perimeter times the height, I'm going to take the circumference times the height. And I'm actually going to take that a little step further because the circumference is 2 pi r, and then I need to multiply it times the height. So let's look at our formula. The surface area of a cylinder is the sum of the lateral surface area and twice the area of the base. And my lateral surface area is the circumference times the height. So we already talked about on the previous screen there that the circumference is 2 pi r times h. So let's take this total surface area and let's put in 2 pi r h for the lateral surface area. And we know that the area of the base is a circle. So the area of the base is going to be pi r squared. So if I have 2 of them, I'm going to have plus 2 pi r squared. So you can also use this formula, or you can just keep going with the one that we've been using. So let's look at an example. So I've got a circular cylinder, and I'm going to look at the area of the lateral surface. Now remember, that's going to be the circumference times the height. So the circumference is 2 times pi times 3, and the height is 8. So the lateral surface area turns out to be 48 times pi. Now when I look at the area of the base, that's just a simple circle, and I know that that's pi r squared. So in our case, that's pi times 3 squared, so the area of the base ends up being 9 pi. So the total surface area is going to be the lateral surface area plus 2 times the base. So in our case, that's going to turn into 48 pi plus 9 pi multiplied times 2. So I get 48 pi plus 18 pi, which gives me 66 pi square units.